Hello YouTube audience. Today I would like to work on this tree, which is a Cypress Lawsonian Wissel's Saguaro Cypress. I would like to try to turn this nursery tree into a bonsai, and here is the information I got from the tag of the plant. So hope that's visible. So I got it from the famous Swanson's nursery in Seattle, and it's Lawson Cypress narrow contorted grow habit. Branches produce arms resembling the saguaro cactus. Rare and interesting, grow up to 6 inches a year, 6 to 8 inches a year, evergreen, zone 5 to 9. So the tolerant zone, I think Seattle is in zone 8 or something like that, but zone 5 means the lowest temperature that the plant can tolerate goes to minus 15 degree Fahrenheit, which is way below the lowest temperature in Seattle. So I think we are fine with this plant. So this will be an outdoor plant. You should not grow it in indoor environment. And because the information is very limited in the tag, I search online and see what people say about this plant, and so people normally call it Wissel's Saguaro Cypress. So as we've mentioned, people think that it grows like Saguaro's cactus seen in Arizona, but I think every young and awkward plant grow like the cactus, so it's not a big deal. There is actually a very interesting story behind it. So this tree, I think, originated from Europe, and so first, why these things are called Lawson Cypress? I think Lawson cypresses originated from the forest of Oregon and northwestern California, and it can grow up to 200 feet, but not this plant, not this particular cultivar. It was first seen in Europe after the nursery of Lawson and Son in Edinburgh, Scotland, sell this plant that's collected from the Western America in the 1850s. So Lawson and Son was the first European nursery to sell Lawson Cypress. That's why it's called Lawson Cypress. But this particular cultivar is not from the United States. And so this particular thing is found in 1885. This is Wissel's cypress, which is a type of Lawson cypress. I think it's characterized by its blue foliage. So I try to limit myself of buying one kind of tree, one kind of tree only. So I already own a Lawson cypress, so I thought I'm not going to get another Lawson cypress. But when I saw this plant, I just fell to resist. But let's continue the story. So it's found in the forest of Germany, and a nurseryman called F. von der Wissel began to sell this plant. So why this is called Wisseli or Wissel cypress. And then in 1960s, a nurseryman in Netherlands called it found a witch's broom growing on this Wisseli tree that has this coral-like foliage, and he basically grew this branch on and propagate from, I guess, a cutting or a air layering, grow that particular branch on and sell it as this Saguaro cypress. He found that the thing grow like saguaro cactus, so they call it Saguaro cypress. Anyway, it's a complicated story, but I find it very interesting. I would attach the link of the story on the description, in the description. So it's the reason why I got so fascinated by this plant. If we look at the detail of the plant, so obviously it has dark blue foliage, which I have no resistance to, but also if you look at this foliage, it's just so fine. And Lawson cypress is a type of Cypress, which is a kin to the famous Hinoki cypress, which is very commonly used in bonsai. Hinoki cypress is Cypress obtusa, and these foliage is so tight, so tiny and so tight, which make me think about the Hinoki cypress that's for the best for Shohin bonsai, which is called Seka Hinoki. So this is obviously not a real Hinoki cypress, but the tight foliage make me think of that. So I think I may have find a very, very interesting cultivar for bonsai. And so that go into one of the characteristic, a good characteristic of a plant that can make a good bonsai. Of course, every trees and shrubs can be made into bonsai, but there are some desirable traits. One of them is small and tight foliage, which this plant really have that very well. And when I go into select a nursery plant, of course, there may be, every time you go to a nursery, there may be 10-20 plants of the same type on sale, and not everyone is of the same quality for bonsai. So there are some characteristics that we can look for. Of course, the tight foliage is one, but it is dictated by the species and the cultivar of the plant. So if you already have the same type of plant, there are other characteristics. One of them is a surface root, a spreading surface root, which not every plant has. In nursery plants, sometimes you would see them in deciduous trees, but in conifer, evergreen conifer, it's more rare. It's less common to see a root spread in a young tree. But there are other things. So root spread, or in Japanese they call it nibari. That's surface root spread. And the other characteristic is a good trunk, a thick trunk, which young nursery plants normally don't have, but relatively. For example, if you have this $20 plant, there are 20 of them. Some would be thicker, have thicker trunk. Some would have a thinner, so the thicker one is normally better. And for this plant particularly, you can see it has a lot of lower branch and two major long branches, which make it most likely to have relatively thick trunk. Because of all these little branches growing out. And indeed, I found that the rest of them mainly have one long trunk, and they normally don't have as thick a trunk as this one. And of course, a lot of lower branches make you have a lot of options to work on. And two major long branches, you can either give you a lot of options. You can either make it into a single trunk tree with good taper, because if you cut one of them off, the base of the tree would be thick, so it already have relative to the branches, so it should already have some taper built in to the tree. And you can make it into a twin trunk tree, or you can make one of the branches bend down to make a cascade or semi-cascade tree. So these multi-branch and a lot of lower branches give you a lot of options. So the options is one factor. So of course, then you have a thick trunk. You may look for some interesting characteristics. For example, if the tree has some interesting movement in the trunks, some sufficient lower branches for you to select from, that would also be great. these characteristics make some plants, nursery plants, better than the rest of them. So based on this, I selected this plant particularly. I think it's the best one within all the ones I saw in the nursery with the same price range. This is about $20. So I think it's relatively available for everybody, and you don't have to get these specialty plant too. It could be any trees and shrubs, and it would be the same pattern, same standard for selecting them. For this plant, I would like to make it into a twin trunk tree, and I would like to make it into a slanting style twin trunk tree. The cascade or semi-cascade is a good choice too, but I already have one that's made in that style, so I'm not going to make the same thing. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the plant out of the nursery pot, and I'm going to repot it in this plastic training pot, and the color is so well made. If I don't tell you, you may not be able to see that it is a plastic pot. It's a perfect color that resembles a unglazed bonsai pot, which is good for these type of evergreen. Normally evergreen conifers, we would use an unglazed pot for. A glazed pot is normally for more colorful tree, but of course colorful deciduous trees, but of course this one is a unique case because it's blue foliage. It's very colorful, so in the end, but for a training pot this is perfect, but in the end I may think about putting it in a unglazed pot, but with the more red color clay, which would contrast the blue color and make it pop. So I will try to clean off some of the lower branches. All these lower branches I'm going to cut off to review the trunk, and everything I cut off I'm going to make a cutting with. From my experience, Lawson Cypress is very easy to propagate from cutting. You can cut off a branch and stuck it into some hormone rooting powder, which I think is here, and poking on it with the chopsticks, and put it into the soil, and I would expect close to 100% success rate. Every branch you cut off will take. So I'm excited to propagate some of these rare specialty plants for future, maybe make more bonsais from. And then I'm going to wire these two major stems and see what kind of shape I can make them into as a twin trunk tree. By the way, I forgot to say the soil I'm going to repot this into is this soil, which is Superfly bonsai soil, which you can easily get online. It's an online store, which this soil is consistent with one part akadama, one part pumice, and one part lava rocks, which is typical soil, bonsai soil for the conifers. So very easy to get. Just go online and get it. If you are in the United States, in other countries, I'm not sure the situation in other countries. But you can make your own soil too. It doesn't have to be the same. As long as is a well draining soil, should be fine, which should be fine. So let's see. Also, I collect some moss from the I'm not sure if you can see this. The moss is here from the sidewalk. Show you the moss. Collected some moss from the sidewalk, and that's for top dressing the plant after I repotted. And I think we have a good before look of this plant already, because this involves repotting, which could easily take several hours, and wiring also is very time consuming too. So I'm going to now turn on the time lapse and in which every second is 6 minutes, so we should finish it in several seconds and then come back and take a look afterward. Okay, we are back. So I repotted the Saguaro Cypress and prune off all the lower branches of the tree, and put it into the new pot in an angle. So as planned, I put it on a slanting angle and put some movement into the trunk line, and the tree is still too young to have primary branches, so it's only just two trunk line, slanting trunk lines, and the goal is to, so I just repotted it. I will wait for a month for the root to establish or to heal all the root that I prune off, and after that I'm going to feed it heavily so that these little branchlets, currently it's still just leaves, they grow into branches. Once there are some long branches, I can start eliminating some small branches and keeping some long branches and start wiring them into a certain style. So also I've pruned off the elongating shoots so that the energy is no longer getting to the tip of the growth, it should start getting to these side branches, and hopefully some side branches will start to develop, and we will start to have primary branches. Currently we have two trunk line. We put some movement into it, and I haven't pruned off any foliage on the two trunk lines, in hope that some of them may randomly develop into a branch, and then after that I will start wiring it into places to style the primary branches. Currently we don't have primary branches yet, so the goal is to have the plant survive and then feed it heavily and have it grow like crazy. And all the lower branches I prune off is here, and I basically take cuttings and see if these would survive and grow into new plants. So the tree actually is very good, surprised me a little bit, and it's pleasant surprise. So you can see the base actually have very good taper. And the slanting side has a very strong taper that anchor the tree. So as I expected, the twin trunk has given the tree very good taper, especially on the base. And now we just have to let it develop, and once some branches start to develop, we can start next round of styling to make it more like a bonsai. Now is not very impressive. It's just look like two whips growing sideways, but it's going to form the trunk line of the tree. And once some branches start to develop, most of these leaves are going to get eliminated, and the trunk start to show, and then have some primary branches coming down from the trunk. Then it would start looking like a tree. Currently it's not really a tree, it still look like a bush, because the trunk line is covered by leaves. But these leaves are going to give the tree strength and help it recover from the repotting, and help the tree thicken. And after that, I think it's going to develop into a very nice slanting style twin trunk tree. And another thing is, because the tree, or most of the way, is on the right side of the tree would not stand by itself. So I use a piece of chopsticks here so the chopsticks is long, and it's from here to all the way to the side of the pot. So it's serving as something to hold the tree for it to stand. And before next repotting, I think this can be removed at next repotting, and hopefully it's going to stand by itself by that time. And this tree, I would just put it in shade for the first month and avoid extreme frost, and hopefully it recovered. And then I'm going to gradually put it back into sun and fertilize it, let it develop, and hopefully next year
I will see if there are some branches start to develop and I can start styling it again. Okay, this is the video and I hope you enjoy it, and take care of yourself. I will see you next time. Bye.